Hello and welcome back to the Digi-Tools and Accrual World podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Pearson. I'm joined by the wonderful.
I am your host, Indy Tatler.
We are co-hosts. Woo! And we normally come as a trio, but we are just a duo again this week.
We're a good duo, though, so I think
The
that
best
this is,
duo?
yeah, almost the best duo. We are missing John Toon, but he has shared his thoughts with us in digital form, so Ryan's going to make sure he fills in all the blanks that would come from our resident polymath.
I would do my best. I do not have the same brain as that very unique man, but I would do my
All
best
the dulcet tones of him.
all the dulcet tones. But I would try and talk endlessly about AI as if no one actually asked me, but I was going to do it anyway. And this week, we are sponsored by Snare, who we'll have on the show later as well to dive into the details of what we're talking about. But who else do we have on the show, Indy?
We will also have iplicit on the show, another mid-tier software platform that most people know in this space, who have made great waves over the course of the last year and continue to do so, involving their accounting platform. They have continued to evolve and give us more of their insights in terms of where they would like to place their efforts. So we're really happy to have them on today's podcast once more.
Definitely. But before any of that, and something I'm not sure we do as much anymore, Indy, but how are you? How are you feeling? You've been having any cold or hot baths? I can't even remember what it is you do now.
Cold, of course, 100%. No, I'm good actually. I think that overall I've had quite an interesting summer, decompressing and really taking some time out to refocus where my attention needs to be. Spent a lot of time in learning mode and really delving deeper into how one can build for the world of tomorrow. That has meant, of course, that I've started reappearing now in terms of where I'd like to place some of the efforts to support this great accounting tech community and add some value with some different types of fractional roles. But in the meantime, I think that, it's been quite an interesting summer for me. As you've seen, I've kind of gone a bit underground for a little bit.
Yeah.
Apart from the podcast, I've enjoyed coming back out just for a little bit to read and know what's going on and keep pace with all of that. But the rest of it has been just in deep learning mode.
Yeah, you came out of the cupboard, the dark room you've been hiding in.
Yeah, you can see these bags now. You can see it in learning mode for some time. No, but it's a good problem to have. I do really worry about the future of most of the next generation of children that are coming through the school, because we're in a unique point in time where AI has made it so easy for you to become more of a music maestro on all fronts. And I think that's going to be very difficult for those coming in at a junior level to then make the same sort of gains that perhaps this generation will be able to make. And maybe that's me just being, completely skeptical about what it means for the financial future of most of those going for education now. But I do think that's why it's a responsibility that we just need to spend a little bit more time being intentional about which systems you choose, how you build for the future, what your data and your ownership of that data really means. Really interesting side anecdote is that, and I think I challenge other people in the industry to do the same, is that I spent a little bit more time looking at the terms and conditions of some of these AI note takers for a little bit of time. And it was very interesting for me to understand who really owns the outputs of that and how much that is being used to train the machine learning models that you are training, and what it means in terms of implications if you are bound by NDAs and other forms of confidential information clauses. So just want to watch, because actually there's quite a few out there that I've noticed that will actually continue to learn from your inputs, but they actually own your outputs and you don't own your outputs, which is scary, because even though you're the one that's in that meeting and you're talking to someone, suddenly your outputs aren't owned by you. They are not your IP. They are someone else's IP. So anyway, that was just little personal challenge to those who are signing up to new AIs to maybe ask an LLM to break down, what the terms are, and just be mindful.
Scary, isn't it? I've been watching a series called Upload on Amazon, and it's kind of like the reverse of that, where you, in this program, you die and go into a computer generation, like simulation, to live forever, essentially, as a piece of code. But then you don't own yourself anymore. So anything you do is now owned by whoever you've kind of passed yourself onto. But we're now doing that with just anything we create in some way, and that is very scary. So anything that we, I guess, hold as unique to us, if we are recording it in a note taker, now can be replicated to some extent, which is to be very aware of.
Yeah, it could be replicated. It could be used as training information. There's a lot of risks where it comes to if you're working, like I said, with those that have disclosed confidential information to you and restricted data to you, and how do you then ensure that you're not breaching any of those rights as well? I feel super, super interesting to read the terms. Like I said, the sub processors that then have the ability to receive your data, even though they don't necessarily need to, and limitations on who they've chosen as a sub processor. So what do I mean by that? We know that Xero, for instance, on the last episode, we spoke about their sub processor that they're using for JAX is going to be OpenAI. So obviously that sub-processor will receive that data as well. And it means that you have multiple US vendors who are then touching your content, which perhaps you didn't sort of factor in before. But anyway, that to say, that's my rabbit hole learning at the moment. And we can always go into that another time.
We are joined again by Paul Sparks, the Chief Product Officer at iplicit. And this episode, we're talking a bit about integrations. Now, traditionally, mid-market finance systems are kind of closed off. They're sat somewhere and they don't like talking to anyone. They're that lonely person that just wants to keep everything to themselves. But the small business, cloud-based modern finance systems are the opposite. They've got this huge wide ecosystem and they share data. And what we're starting to see, I think, and probably iplicit is leading the way, is the mid-market leading cloud finance systems now are all about integrations, connecting to various products. And it's really interesting to see where these are going to go. So, Paul, talk a little bit about what integrations that iplicit are focusing on at the moment.
Sure, we've got quite a list actually. I mean, we started the year with a big work around working with Go Cardless around doing InstaPay. So that bank-to-bank payments, because being able to put that on a link on an invoice. We then progressed with them to do direct debits, and this was a big ask from our customers. Given our fintech, amongst other sort of key sectors, you get a lot of people wanting to set up direct debits and then automatically scheduling those. To being able to do that within the heart of the system has proved a really, really, well-received integration we've launched. That our whole ethos is about understanding by our markets what the requirements are, and then working and identifying the key products where we can help our customers and make sure they can get a choice of offering is really important.
Yeah, definitely. And to ease transition as well, right? So if they're already used to something and say they are growing, they've been through that small business space, moving to a new platform is a big change, and they don't necessarily want to have to change everything. So where you've got similar, connection integrations means they can move some of their products, some of the zeros they're working with them as they start working with iplicit.
I agree entirely. We've always had that ethos. I mean, when we first started the design and architecture of iplicit, we built it from our APIs from the ground up, knowing that was always going to be how do we make it easy for people to integrate. There's some great examples out there already. I mean, like Payroll. I always used to chuckle, in my years of working, why would anybody want to change their payroll and their accounts and finance system all at the same time? Like,
True.
Why would you double that stress at a time?
And risk.
Yeah. So I mean, that's a great example. We've always operated as people choose what's their preferred payroll and HR solution, often based upon their sector, Ryan, because different solutions work better for different spaces, as you know all too well. So that's a great example. And, to refer to what you said, I mean, we recently announced our partnership with Cin7. We're super excited about that. We did a huge amount of research and looked at the market, and it was quite clear that, interestingly, Cin7 offered mid-market feature set for stock and inventory, but were tied predominantly to smaller entry-level accounting software.
And that's because they've kind of grown, like they've acquired and they've grown and added complexity to a point where now actually you can do so much with that product that the finance system, if you're in like a Zero QuickBooks Online, becomes the restricting and limiting factor.
It's actually their biggest risk. We spoke with Joy, their CEO, and spent some time before we started working together and discussed why we think it would be good for us to work together. And they were entirely aligned because they recognize that their biggest risk for churn of customers is that when a company grows, that they were aligned to entry-level accounting and finance solutions. And so they would much rather that people could have the choice of upgrading to a product like iplicit, and they can continue to serve those customers with Cin7, which is entirely aligns with our model too. We're there to support people as they grow.
Definitely. And although you've got inventory inside the system and you can do a lot of inventory features, the integration into Cin7 kind of broadens you now into so many other connections because they've got their own ecosystem themselves. So opens you up into automated e-commerce, automated dispatch. So it's a really smart way of kind of broadening into an entire sector through a deep partnership without having to build all the functionality yourself. And when it comes to integrations, you want to give choice, as you said. So connecting into one platform that gives you all that choice is an easy and quick way and a great way of doing that fast for your client base.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest challenge that I face and the team at iplicit face around product is making those types of decisions, Ryan. We had a product system. It's a good entry level product system, but when we started to listen to our customers, do our market research, it was quite clear in the world of stock and inventory, you need so many integrations, third-party logistics, marketplaces, websites. The list goes on and on and on. And we want to focus on delivering brilliant finance and accounting software. And we felt that in itself was a whole vertical that could consume huge amounts of effort and resource. And to what end? When there's a perfectly great system there available with a good API, and we've got a great API, how do we work together to create an integration that will deliver this for those customers? And that's what we've done.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And with that, you start focusing on sectors. So obviously you can kind of focus on the e-commerce sector, but you've been doing that with others that you have, you've been working with them for quite a long time anyway. So the education sector, for example, they've got some very niche requirements. You're focusing on some integrations to help them as well, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really important market for us, the multi-academy trust. We've had phenomenal growth, and we've been seen as probably the fastest growing new entrant to that space, and helping people be freed from old, legacy systems. But in that space in particular around budget management, budget planning and what if scenarios, there's a couple of specialist tools in the market from IMP and from SBS. And we recognise that they've got good products and those customers enjoy using them. So again, using our own team, we've built integrations with them or working with jointly with them to create their offerings that will serve that market again. But that's the power when you have a modern product built on APIs. It enables you to make those decisions in an agile and quick way. And it's really interesting because there's a lot of noise in the market at the moment. We still have a lot of older systems because the trouble with the mid-market is the functionality is so rich. It takes a lot to build a new product. So what we do often have in our world, as you will know all too well, Ryan, is older products that are kind of polished a little bit with some new interfaces, but ultimately they're hosted in their own data centers. They're closed off. And the minute that happens, you can't have a public API going out very easily. And so that's usually the telltale sign have they got a public API? What else can I integrate with? And so they'll often be, well, you can link to these products from within our portfolio because they're then hosted on their same servers.
Yep. Yeah, whereas you've got much more flexibility, the client's got much more flexibility, and you can fill in some of these niche gaps as you've been doing in the education sector. But we talked at the start about ease of transition. And something we always find in the smaller business space, where they're kind of used to a zero cookies online Sage, free agent, etc., is they've got their own kind of staff expense apps. And although you've got this really advanced, and we talked about this on the show, you've got really advanced your own app for collecting that data, but you've got also for OCR for invoices paid in arrears as well. Some businesses just don't want to have to change all that for their staff. So are you exploring that area as well, and how you can kind of build into integrations of systems that clients are just used to working as they kind of start to adopt iplicit?
Yeah, I mean, we already integrate with Lightyear, who has its own expense here. We integrate with Capture Expenses, done some work with Expense In. So we already offer that option of people being able to choose other apps, and we're really open. We are getting approached all the time, and one of the things that we love, and I suppose it's funny how time changes, but when we first started, it was all upon us, and the demand was for us to do that work. We're now getting approached, consistently by other organisations saying we'd like to integrate to iplicit because we're seeing more and more of that product in the market. So it kind of evolves over time, and so we definitely are seeing more of these options available, and we're really open to it. We want our customers to have choice.
Yep. Yeah, you will be probably in the probably not too distant future, similar to Xero, right? Having your own app store that either you control or the app controls, but they're all certified and verified as the quality of product. That's where I see this going, but maybe I'm just future gazing. But the one area that I think that every system has to be ready for, one that I think is going to be massively impacting this market, is e-invoicing. So what are you doing in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, we've already got a stream of work underway around that. We have done some work with some products that are in the market, but we're also doing work around exploring how we can use the latest technology to better deliver that as part of our core system as well. So we are very hopeful that hope's not a strategy, as I always say. We have plans to make sure that we have an offering for customers to choose in 2026.
Cool. So excited for that as well. Look, I could end up asking you endless questions about integrations because I love that space, but I think this is probably a brilliant place to bring this to a close. So thanks again, Paul, for joining us and talking us through what iplicit are doing in the connectivity and integration space.
Thank you, Ryan.
So let me kick off app news this week with an announcement from Artifact AI, who not that long ago, maybe a month ago, just a month, announced a £4 million seed round led by A16Z Speedrun, who had some investors, including executives from OpenAI, referencing, I guess, some of our initial conversation. And what is Artifact AI? If you've not come across them before, they are an agentic AI accountant. So essentially, it's an AI native platform where you'll do your processing, so your transactional processing, including reconciliations directly inside the system. Now, what is interesting about this is, unlike, I guess, where we've talked about Intuit, we've talked about Sage, we've talked about Xero, all trying to get in this AI space, they're what we now refer to as a traditional system, because they're not built on AI, they're building AI into their platform. Whereas Artifact, new accounting platform, similar, I guess, to where we talked about Digits previously, where it's all about automating as much as possible through AI agents that are directly inside the system. So what does it mean? Well, essentially, you have your AI agents sit on top of your accounting software and record, automated workflows on your behalf, flagging up anything that is deemed high risk or for review. Anything that that's mundane data entry, you are now leaving to them, and you're now looking at from a risk perspective. Now, for accountants, this might be quite scary, but if you do embrace it in the way we've embraced cloud, then you can automate a huge amount of your functionality. Now, they recently had a launch event in London, unfortunately not one that I could attend as I was climbing a mountain, but it's something where they had, according to them, had a really good turnout. I know some people that went and said it was very, very positive and had some incredible reactions in the audience of what it could do. Now, for transparency, I've been involved in trying to guide them through some of the pain points from a UI perspective that accountants need to see. And from what I've seen of the system, it looks very good. Very early doors, obviously, just had their seed round. We're going to see a lot more of them, though, I think, as we go into 2026.
How ready are they for our UK market?
Well, essentially, it's been building for the, a large part from the UK market. So what the system was doing in the back end was already very powerful when I guess I got involved. But how it was presenting information was very data-driven and not insights-driven. So just reshaping how the information was presented. So we want to be looking at, the actionable elements that we need to focus on. And only if we need the data or the explanation, do we want to go into it underneath and go, okay, well, what is it that has caused this to happen? Generally, we don't want to see that at the forefront. We want to see, well, what are the outliers? What are the trigger points? What are the actions I need to do to make it as efficient as possible? But we can still see all of that information if we need to in the back end.
Do you know how many clients and how many UK and based firms have been using the platform to help train, I guess, and shape the models?
I do not know what I can say, I think, on this. So I know they've got some very large bookkeeping practices because I know that some of those are also or have been involved in some more the mechanics. So not, I guess, user interface, but actually what it's doing in the back end and have been helped shaping it. And from what I could tell, we're very impressed with it as well. So, yeah, I think we're going to see a few of these crop up that are going to really challenge the existing software providers that we've referenced, Xero, QuickBooks, Sage, Creagent. I think we're going to start seeing these in 2026 and beyond really disrupt.
Interesting. Okie dokes. I've got something different that is not quite in the AI world, thankfully, in some ways, because it's a bit overwhelming now and again. But a little bit different. AccountsIQ launches their non-financial metrics tool to empower the finance teams with a more 360 view of business performance. So if you want to start measuring metrics such as number of leads generated or KPIs that you've set for your executives on what missions you would want them to complete. For example, they list like a HR intensive business can combine payroll journals with headcount figures to better understand workforce costs. Or, technology companies, like I said, who might then want to focus on customer conversions. Then there is more of a whole picture that you can paint with your KPIs alongside your core financial data. I think it's super invaluable for most of the businesses that we've worked with in the past, where you have one separate system that then tracks some things like your CRM data or tracking within your application. Maybe if you're an accounting software, for instance, in the past, that you yourself would want to track the metrics of like how many trials or demos or whatnot that you've had. I think this is very clever that you can measure something about the adoption of your product, but also other metrics, and link it to how much you're actually spending in real terms in your accounts. So a great little ad. What did you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I mean, in that space, they say in that kind of mid-tier finance space, the leading ones that are cloud native. Non-financial is an element that some of their competitors had already developed and pushed. And so I guess they're trying to, carve out a little competition there. So basically saying we can do more, we can kind of share more beyond just the financial elements, which is what they essentially did in the past. Now, how they do it effectively is all to do with the integrations to the data they're sucking in. So if their API doesn't allow that to come in, then you're manually putting it all in. It becomes more painful. So automation is the key around this. But yeah, they need to I guess, reinvigorate, the system. They've done that through a new UI, to bring out new functionality, and I think it's a great place to push non-financial metrics, as we've talked about with Tugger as on the pod recently. It's something that more and more businesses need, to slice that with financial metrics to get greater insights for now a more varied KPI set, I think, is becoming a standard requirement, or at least a higher, what would the term be? A nice to have, but one that people are pushing more for. I've got probably something that's not as exciting, but is also critical. I've got some information on releases from Unleashed. Now, they've been doing things probably in the background for the last few months, but there's a few little things that I came across recently I thought were quite good. So if you've ever worked with Unleashed, or you've come across it as an inventory system, they've got products, and then they've got product groups, and now you've got subgroups that sit underneath those product groups. And the challenge with that system historically is you couldn't really report across those. So similar to, I guess, when you're talking about AccountsIQ and non-financial information, the subgroups is something that you couldn't really do any slicing and dicing information on, especially in their BI vision tool, which is that similar to Power BI, the advanced data analysis tool. But they've now released a functionality so you can do that. You can bring it in and you can get greater granularity on. Similar, I guess, the way they demonstrate that in that kind of donut chart. You can do that and click in and drill in and find out exactly what's going on, not only on the products, not only on the groups, but also on the subgroups. They've also advanced their assembly process to bring in the ability to assign a production person to this. Now, I guess historically, Unleashed has never been that good at the manufacturing element. Assemblies was always very light, but enabled them to do very basic manufacturing to some extent. But you couldn't, I guess, schedule this in any way. The ability to add a production person to that enables some scheduling. You've got a Kanban board that it works within the system. And I think that pushes it quite, gives you a bit of a leap forward from a manufacturing perspective. Still not the same quality as a full-on dedicated manufacturing system, but that isn't what Unleashed is built for. It's built for inventory management, and you've now got some additional manufacturing functionality you can benefit from. And then lastly, the other one I was going to pick up is that you can now sync payment information from Xero back into Unleashed. You've got sales invoices and you want to know if they've been paid. That information will come straight back into Unleashed from Xero, as long as you've got it enabled.
Nice. And I've got something different again. And I like the fact that it's different because it means that we are hearing from good old reliable Bright, who have continued to invest in payroll professionals. And this is like the acquisition of the Payroll Center and ACT platform. So as we all know, Bright has had a long history working in this space with payroll in particular, and it's best known for, some of its payroll products and its accounting software products that it has acquired in recent years. So this is very aligned to the fact that they're now looking at how they can help customers stay more informed and compliant with the evolving legislative requirements, and always making sure that they train those who can then look at how they're using the platform, but also use the Payroll Center, which is powered by a payroll competency model, and uses some sort of tailored assessments and traffic light dashboard to highlight where the team can upskill and refresh their knowledge in legislation and compliance. So through this acquisition, Bright will now be able to offer ACT to all its customers, and all of those skills and assessments and that are specifically designed for payroll professionals. It helps then you to manage your team, reduce operational risk, and give people the ability to run more accurate and compliant payroll services. So it's a nice deepening of their extended footprint in this space. And the reason I like it is because instead of trying to build this themselves, which I'm sure by now they could do, what they've done is they've just looked at something and thought, how can we already make our advance into this space deeper, more meaningful, more authentic, and do a better job of it than just hashing something out ourselves. And instead, they've bought something that is recognized, has a good standard, has a nice experience, and they've just rolled it out to all their customers. Brilliant. Nice little one. Thanks. I've got another little bit from Bright if you would like. It's Inform Direct. Would you like to talk about it though, Ryan, today? Because I know that you were keen to talk about identity verification.
Oh yeah, it's a topic I can't get enough of. But I guess anyone that's in the accounting space is going to be aware of the new Economic Crime and Corporate Transparency Act, or ECCTA. I'm not sure that's the way you say it, but that's what I'm going with, which has introduced compulsory identity verification for company directors and persons with significant control. And if you've been using Inform Direct for any of your confirmation statements, which is the standard thing you use Inform Direct for, or anything changing on Companies House, it makes sense for them to release it into their platform, which is what they've done. So if you are an accountancy firm, or you are a registered provider, or an authorized corporate service provider, or ACSP, which I'm not sure is actually what you say for that acronym, then you can record your registration details directly inside the software, and that enables you to undertake the valid identity checks for your clients using either physical document inspection or electronic verification services. So I wouldn't say this is a big surprise that they've rolled this out, but the fact that they've brought it into a system that should be doing it and doing it well means that it's probably going to deter anyone that's using Inform Direct from looking elsewhere. They're going to just use the system already. And as an accountant that's worked in firms that have used Inform Direct, I'm sure there's a lot of accounting firms out there having a sigh of relief that the main platform, one of the market leaders, if not the market leader in this space, has got the functionality directly inside it.
Very nice, very nice. And we've also got something that returns a good old-fashioned topic of MTD, which is fast coming down the track. So now you can get MTD for income tax compliant free with Zoho Books. Obviously, free it depends on your category and what level you're at. But Zoho Books has rolled out powerful new features for MTD and helping your clients become more compliant with the mandate. The free plan includes the ability to maintain digital records, enable automatic bank feeds, connect to HMRC, and generate new review and quarterly updates, and submit quarterly updates to HMRC for your clients. The free plan gives access also to self-assessment summary reports, self-service customer portal, mileage tracking, and CIS tracking as a subcontractor. So that to say, this is a great sort of step forward for MTD in general, the fact that it's now here and we're almost at the point where these softwares are catching up with it. I know that there's a few more that are coming down the track as well. So Zoho Books is one. I have heard about a few others. There was one that was in Finland originally that came over to the UK a couple of years ago, probably prematurely, called Cleta. Another one that's coming out down the track that I've heard about is KPM 365. So there's a few that are now getting their house in order to make sure that they're covered for sole traders and giving a sort of a very free or low cost option to be able to...
I'm going to wrap this week's app news up with something on spreadsheets, because who doesn't love a spreadsheet? We all, as accountants and finance professionals, love a spreadsheet. And we've now got an AI-powered one. Paradigm has raised $5 million in a seed round, which has been led by General Catalyst, to bring an AI-powered spreadsheet, basically, into the marketplace. I'm sure that anyone that loves a spreadsheet will be there going, oh, what does this mean? What does AI-powered spreadsheet mean? Well, essentially, they have created AI agents that go across all of their rows and columns inside a spreadsheet. Users can assign the different prompts to the individual columns and cells, and then the individual AI agents will crawl the internet to find and fill out the information. Now, what this works really effectively on is where, and the use case is where you've got a CRM, And most businesses using a CRM want to populate a lot of information into it. So they'll kind of export that into a spreadsheet. They'll go and search the internet, fill it in the spreadsheet, and then upload it into or re-upload it into the CRM because that's the most effective way of doing it. Well, by now, I guess adding it in or putting it into an AI-powered spreadsheet, it means it will go and fill in all of those boxes for you automatically, and then you push it back up into your CRM. So massively streamlining that data collection process. Now, they're not the only ones in this space. So Quadratic raised $6 million recently and is a 3-year-old business. So it has been around for longer than Paradigm. And you've also got Google and Microsoft doing similar things, trying to bring AI into their spreadsheets to do a lot more with them. So are they late to the market with this? Who knows? It really depends on what they bring out and how quickly they do it. And one of the things they did flag is they've got a very aggressive product roadmap that they want to focus on. And that's the reason that they raised their seed round. And I do like it when that's what their focus is. They're raising money not to go and throw it into marketing. It's about actually getting as much into the products as possible, as quickly as possible, especially in this space where AI is shifting so quickly and new tech is always being released. We are back with James Rose from Content Snare. And if you missed the last episode, essentially Content Snare is all about the effective exchange of data. And as we go into this kind of realm of MTD, then this is becoming more and more prevalent. But there's so many firms I talk to still that are sharing data or sending information back and forth through email. And it's so rife with fraud to one extent that things are going to be exchanged that shouldn't be exchanged and then misleading information. Is one of the reasons, I guess, that Content Snare exists is to just try and take that away from email entirely, James?
I would say we didn't start like that. That wasn't something we thought about, but it became, we've been around a while now, right? It's in 2016 was the first line of code that was written. So that has become more and more of a concern over time. And especially once we got into accounting and more like other professionals, it became a really big piece of it. Yeah, like that. A lot of our customers report that as like one of the main, I guess, benefits they see in using a product like Content Snare.
Yeah, and I know I've seen it many times where we ask for like passports or we ask for driver's license to be sent through an email where that could easily be rerouted or hijacked, and now that client has lost, their very sensitive information is just out in the wider world. So a portal to some extent is I think really mandatory nowadays. You need one. Like if you're listening right now, you don't have a client portal, I think that's the first thing you need to resolve. And it's essentially what you're trying to do with Content Snare is kind of fill that gap. Is that kind of what the solution does?
Yeah, well, I mean, I used to think client portal was a swear word and I didn't want to be associated with them because everyone's been burned by client portals, or there's so many very legacy ones out there that aren't exactly nice for clients to use. But yeah, I mean, that is essentially, that's one way I would describe it. It's really a simple client portal. So a way for, people to give you information, upload you files in a nice checklist format. So instead of like, here's the folder, just dump all your crap in here. Here's the list of exact files we need. Upload this file here and this one here and this one here. And they can see what they've checked off. More recently, we added the ability to send files back to clients as well. Like same scenario, right? Like the other issue with email, if you send a file via email, that is literally in their inbox forever, unless they delete it, which nobody does. And if that email gets compromised 5 years later, all those documents are still in that email. So an attacker can just download all of that. So, sending files to clients is also something to think about, and not like, their lodged documents or whatever. So that's keep that in a portal instead.
I mean, that is I've looked at accounting firms' kind of data retention policies before, which admittedly a lot of the time don't exist anyway. But if they're, making sure they are deleting client data, I don't think anyone has ever considered about how they're sending that and exchanging that with their client and then removing that. Obviously, the client has now downloaded it and they've saved it somewhere. That's entirely up to them. But I guess if you have sent it via email, then to some extent, you're slightly responsible for it, where it sits on the other end, because you have forced that that exchange of I guess, communication. So yeah, I've never really thought about it that way, but that's a really critical security probably flaw in the way that we've worked in the profession for quite a while.
Yeah,
But
people don't think about that. Like the email, that attachment now lives in two places as soon as you send it, in your sent and their received. And if it doesn't get deleted in both ends, it's there forever.
yeah, I mean, look, we're still using one of the most original ways of sharing information when the internet was conceived. So there is a better way, people. There is a better way. But why, I guess, like from a security point of view, why Content Snare then? What do you do that makes, as well as it just being a siloed portal, what's the system? How's the system constructed that makes it secure?
Yeah, that is a big question. And I could talk about that all day. We have a page on our website dedicated to security because there's so many things you have to do now, right? Like the classic is it encrypted in transit? So meaning when it's being sent from the browser, like to our servers, is it encrypted then? Is it encrypted when we store it? And the answer to those is yes, right? But then there's various levels of security where we actually encrypt every firm's data separate to every other firm. So let's say something got compromised in one account, I don't even know how that would happen because we have so many other security protocols in place. But if one gets compromised, then that encryption key doesn't work on the other companies. On the login side, we've got two-factor and the ability to enforce that across the organization. So you can say like no one's allowed to even have an account without two-factor.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on. Where ISO 27001 certified, so that is kind of the certificate that you're third-party audited against global security standards. It's kind of. I think if you get that, yeah.
Well, there's so many businesses and apps that didn't for a long time, and now security has come to the fore. I think, like we when clouds came out, a lot of, pretty much all of us went, "Oh, shiny new tools make our life easier," and only then in recent times we've gone, no, we should probably make sure those shiny new tools are actually secure. And we're asking the questions now, which I think is why a lot of apps now are at least have something. But ISO 27001, you're pretty much at the pinnacle, like from a security perspective. So that's all good. But is there any way, I guess, that you can lock down more sensitive data inside the system? Because there's always bits, like I said about passports, etc., where you're maybe wanting to share that with key individuals inside your firm, or you want it to only live in there for a certain amount of time compared to the entire database of information just going back and forth.
Yeah. So we're actually planning a feature that'll like potentially auto delete entire requests, but because that comes up sometimes where people just want it to like in line with their data retention policy. You can do that with external tools right now, like Zapier. You can just say automatically delete after 90 days or whatever. However, we have this confidential field, which was an option on any field. So if it's like a number that they're typing in that you're worried about, or like some text, or and you're worried it's sensitive, or a document they're uploading, you just turn this switch on that says confidential. And that basically means once that answer is submitted into the system, no one else can see it. Like the client, next time the client comes back, because sometimes there might be multiple people working on one. We call it a request. That's like just a checklist of stuff that you need. So, but you might not want to see the other people as part of that request. You don't want them to see it. So you mark it as confidential. It's kind of sealed once it's submitted at that point until the accountant or bookkeeper comes in and goes, I want to unseal that. They can download it and then prompt it to delete it. So that's, we recommend people use that for anything that's sort of got that extra level of sensitivity.
I mean, that's great. I've not seen that in any other portal or document exchange system before. So it really highlights, I guess, your focus on security and ease, I guess. And that's the other thing is that you said about mandating of two-factor. Is that to your clients as well? Because I know that with different not age, but experience of using IT. Some people struggle with two-factor. So is there have you got flexibility in that way of working with your clients?
So it's funny you say you never have seen that before, because the reason we came up with that idea is because we generally don't do two-factor with clients. You can set that up if you want. You can say clients have to log in and have two-factor. However, the entire thing, if you put that many layers, if someone's got to remember that, what email they use, the password and two-factor into a client portal, they just won't use it. It's really that simple. So we use Magic Link login, which is, they get a special link that gets sent to their email address or SMS, and they can click it, and they could go straight into the portal depending on your settings. So there's like, that's it. They literally just have to click a link, and there's, it depends on your risk management, but that link is only live while the request is still live. So it's called an unguessable link, which is, many decades worth of computing power just for someone to show up and randomly guess this link, right? But if you're worried about that, we put a PIN code on top of that as well. So they're like your options. It's like straight in via link with a PIN code, create an account, and then optionally put 2-factor on it as well. So it's most accounting firms will use Magic Link plus PIN. That makes sense. That's why that confidential is there then. Like, let's say, because the problem with the Magic Link is they could forward that to someone else. That's generally the security concern. It's not a huge concern, but depending on what information is going in there. But let's say someone forwards that email, it's got that link in it. Now that person's got that Magic Link. So that's why you might put a PIN code on it, and then the confidential is just that extra layer where whoever you sent that link to won't be able to see anything that's in those confidential fields.
Yeah, I've seen it before in multiple ways. One where the link's at the bottom of an email chain that someone's forgotten it's in, or it's just there's been an error in the way someone set something up and it's gone to the wrong client. And the PIN code is a really simple solution because 4 digits, right? Most people can, or however many digits you've got, but can normally remember that. And it's enough of a security to limit anyone else getting in. So no, that all makes sense. And look, I really love the fact that you are really high on security, but still focus, go back to the fact it's about simplicity of access for the client, making it easy for them to interact. So thanks again, James.
Incredibly difficult, by the way. Yeah. Like keeping things easy and secure, and like it's insane how much time we spend on this.
Yes, no, I understand that. Trying to balance complexity and great UI is another example of it. But no, thanks, James, for coming on again and running through, content snare and security.
Cheers, Ryan.
And that brings another Digi-Tools and Accrual podcast to a close. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you've gathered insights from our app news section, as well as the guest speakers that we had on this week from iplicit and Content Snare. If you are listening to this right now as it's been released, then you'll be aware we have our awards show this evening, and hopefully we'll be seeing you there. If not, and you're like, oh, I've just found out about it, but it's not happened yet. Don't worry, you can listen to it and watch it live. Just make sure you hop over to the Digital Disruptors LinkedIn channel, and we'll be talking about how you connect to see it as everyone else does. Hopefully, if it's like last year, the thousands around the UK and beyond. The next show.
I think you should just hop on the train and come and join us. Hey,
you can do it, assuming we've still got tickets.
Might not be late
because
we may have some tickets. We don't know yet. We're kind of predicting, aren't we? We might not, but I'm sure we can squeeze you in.
Yeah, so drop us a message. Drop Indie Tatler a message about how to get.
Yes. Anybody that messages me on the day is going to have a nice surprise.
I'm hoping that means a ticket. So if you do like our show, please do make sure you subscribe to it. And if you want to get the news before we even talk about it, subscribe to our weekly newsletter that comes out on a Friday. And then we always like to hear your thoughts. We get this quite a lot, actually, of people having opinions about the topics we discuss. Please join our weekly live show at 9 a.m. every Thursday morning, where we'll pick one of these topics, we'll get a guest on, and we'll dive into the specifics of why it is important and why you should be paying attention to it. Otherwise, hopefully catch you next week.